Hey, you guys. I'm on strike. I bet that's what this guy sounds like. Because he is. This is an insane amount of people, actually. I don't know if you guys are familiar with what's been happening around the country right now. Just for context, anyone who's watching from the future, it's about 3 weeks in July. It's super hot outside, and everyone's pissed off. They're not getting paid enough. Corporations are holding on to a lot of money, and there's a lot of collective bargaining going on around the country. I think it's interesting because ever since I've actually had to work in a professional job setting, it seems like this has been very separate and isolated, and kind of like unions are almost dying. But now, as you can see, there's a ton of people who need to deliver stuff. And I don't think the people are aware in America of how important supply lines are for things. I think that, it's nice. I can go on Amazon and I can get, I don't know, like some deodorant, and it'll show up in my house tomorrow morning. And I think that's cool. But there's so many different people that are involved in getting that stuff available to even get it to me. If these guys all went on strike, we'd all be screwed. At this point, we don't really have a good alternative. And they're not just coming to your Amazon. This is coming to the grocery stores. This is going to airplanes that are flying around the world, trade in and out. It's a big deal. So I thought I'd talk about it. This is 340,000 people. They're going to strike over a pay scale that gives part timers, I guess, poverty wages, because it does. um, and yeah, it would mark the first delivery services. This is UPS itself. Um, Talks between the International Brotherhood of Teamsters and UPS fell apart. The union and the shipping and logistics company are blaming each other for the collapse. Well, that's good. And as you can see, there's a ton of people who have to do this job because guess what? We all buy stuff on Amazon. Martin Luther King Jr. Day is not a paid holiday for them, and it is for most federal companies or federal government employees, I guess. And then a lot of private companies are also getting it. Like I have Martin Luther King Day off. It seems kind of questionable if you're not. Like why? Why would you not? Because everything else is already shut down anyway. But it's a supply chain. You really don't want to give people days off, I think, is kind of what it comes down to. Um, so, basically over COVID, too, there's been a lot of issues surrounding people not getting hazard pay, having to work mandated, necessary overtime. And yeah, you can see here that they've cleared 13 and 12 billion dollars in 2 different years and tripled their net income from just 5 years ago. So they're like, hey, can you please pay us? Because they're like, can you give us a day off? This ending a two-tiered wage system. Part-time workers earn an average of $5 an hour less. So it incentivizes employers to try to get like people to work part-time, stop requiring them work overtime. And this seems like an obvious thing to me, and just having fans in their delivery trucks. So 57% of packages are shipped straight to consumers, which is a lot. Based on my years, the actual writer of this article, who's Jason Miller, and I don't know who the conversation is, but they're saying here that based on their years of research, they believe Americans should recognize the impact would stretch far beyond delayed delivery of anything that you buy online. Could disrupt availability of like all the other things I was talking about, right? The freight things, spare parts, medical supplies, automotive parts, things for roads, infrastructure. It could be bad. So there's a high incentive for people to actually try to work with unions and make it so people, I don't know, can also just like drive their trucks around without AC. It's one of the hottest summers, I think, of all time recorded in the US. I live in Seattle, so not a big deal for me. It's still like 85 degrees or 90 degrees, which is quite a bit hotter than it was growing up, but It's if I had to drive around in like Phoenix as a UPS driver getting paid less money than someone else because I worked 30 hours instead of 40 and then I didn't even get AC, like, yeah, I would probably quit that job. Like, what's the point of even having a union at that point? So that's why this guy is pretty upset. So UPS and Teamsters, they're trying to make a deal too. Um, this is just a different article from CNN Business. And yeah, um, there's a lot of organized labor I wanted to look at some other strikes that are going on because it's not just the package industry. Um, but it kind of extends to some of the other things that I cover more on my channel. If it has to come with like video games or the gaming industry and the tech industry, this could severely impact shipments of components, products, things that are coming from international places, things that require a lot more logistical movement than you might think would cause an increase of just like computer parts coming from Taiwan. There's all kinds of chipset stuff. But it's like just getting it to you might be a lot harder if something like this happens because they're going to work from, I'm assuming, like biggest problem to smallest problem. And the smallest problem is probably just you with your fancy gaming computer or your new high end gaming console. But ultimately, at the end of the day, this is about people having respect, and you got to feel bad. Like when you see this guy and you're like, I hope he makes good money. He probably doesn't, for the amount of work he does and the driving and the picking things up and the dropping off and the weird rules now with like ring stuff, and you're trying to get into apartment complexes. Like, this guy is not getting paid enough. And he should probably, they should probably getting paid more than they're being recognized for, especially if Amazon's running the world and we're able to have these things delivered to us quickly. Like, you should probably pay them similar to a doctor because they're keeping all of us, it's not like unskilled labor. It's not easy to do that. So, anyway, that's just part of this. For the strike is still looming and it seems like kind of doom and gloom, but um, this is a big labor movement with almost half a million people just within this one for the Teamsters. Another one here is, of course, is the SAG-AFTRA one that's currently going on, which could in fact impact a lot of different things that you would enjoy consuming. I don't know if you're a sick freak that likes to watch all the Netflix shows that have been coming out that are very mediocre, in my opinion. You know, um, whatever. That's just a Netflix issue, right? All these writers that need jobs and they're getting paid terribly. The residual stuff is, like a 50th of what it would be when cable TV was in its heyday in the 90s and the early thousands. And yeah, I thought I'd just like to show you this because this is still an ongoing thing, but it seems to go from very blue collar people to white collar people, right? Fancy Hollywood elites are still striking. And this guy right here. He's Harrison Ford's stunt actor. So let's watch this here. Woo! This is this is like also so corny. We're tired of being burned by the different companies that are just taking advantage of our labor. Literally lights himself on fire like a fake thing. Stunts Unlimited. But yeah, even Hollywood, they're striking, and they're people who get a lot of money in general, but a lot of those profits are kind of being hoarded by companies like Disney for no reason. Like, you should be trying to make the world a better place from your products. You shouldn't just be trying to hoard things. Maybe that's why I'm not a business person. That's why I don't own my own business. But, like, it even gets to the point where the New York Times literally is a thing of just strikes. I was just trying to do some research and they just have strikes. And like some of these things are just not really related to striking. Like, I don't know how this is like somehow tangentially related to striking. But it's things on here that I don't see well covered. There's a union that has to do with airplane stewardesses / flight attendants. whatever you want to call them, and they're getting horribly underpaid. It's kind of crazy. I didn't really realize it worked like this, but you don't get paid until the plane actually, like, you get into it, and I think it takes off. Like, when you actually quote unquote start work, which seems insane to me. Like, imagine that you don't get paid for your job. Let's pretend in the scenario you're an hourly employee also. But you're going into work and you don't get paid until you start, like, doing something at work. Like, you literally start doing a presentation. Like, you don't get paid until you start the meeting for the day that you have at 10 or whatever. But you still have to get into work, get in, find your stupid parking spot, get your coffee, talk to your coworkers, answer your email. It all seems kind of ancillary to the meeting at 10. But, like, it would be insane. But for some reason, that doesn't apply to the airplane companies. I don't know. Here, how much is a flight? Let's see. Google flights. Okay. If I want to go from Seattle to Los Angeles, that was weird. It was like pre-populated. Let's just say I'm feeling crazy. I want to go on Friday and I'm coming back on a Monday. Going to Tokyo. Nope. Yeah, that's it. We're going to Las Vegas, baby. $410. Like, if this Frontier flight is chock full of people, like, can we not give a little money to the people who aren't just flying the plane? I don't know. All I'm trying to say is that the profits seem to be, like, very one-sided, and I think that a lot of people here that are listening to me don't have a union, more than likely. So you don't have people who are arguing for, there's no collective bargaining going on. So, you don't have the same kind of rights afforded to you, and maybe there needs to be more unionization, because it seems like like I said, when I started working in a corporate environment, the lack of unions led to a lot of predatory things that happened to me and my coworkers, to the point where, there's like a 0% retention rate almost over 10 years. If I think back on my first office, I think there might be like one or two people that still work there that were there when I started. It's not like everyone retired. You just have to keep shuffling jobs because the employers seem to be increasingly not respecting employees. So now, if you're not going to get the representation from, your actual employer for doing a good job, maybe people need to lean on unions more. If it's going to be UPS workers, there's one for some kind of hotel staff. There's airplane stewardesses. And if you can even go all the way to Hollywood, like, still, it's not just like writers also. I didn't do a good job explaining that. It's also actors. If everyone is banding together and fighting huge companies on like a huge level of like Amazon, kind of, I guess it's not Amazon, but whatever, UPS, you're fighting all these companies. Like, I don't know, maybe it's time to more strongly consider it. If you kind of laughed at it before in the past, or you're like, this is dumb, why would I need a union? I don't know, maybe AI will take your job. Have you ever thought of that? It seems to be a lot of emerging things that are coming out now that are real risks. And don't think that you're so special, your own cute little snowflake, that your job wouldn't be replaced by AI, because, I don't know, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy where AI is. If I go to Chat GPT, I could be like, hey, how do I get more subscribers on YouTube? That seems almost just like a good, viable way for me to get more people. It's probably doing a better job than I am, right? Anyway, this is Chris. This is me yelling at all the AI people, AI YouTubers that are currently outdoing me. If you'd like to do me a solid, you could also just subscribe to me to keep me. I got to beat the robots, but yeah. Hopefully, you don't have to light yourself on fire to make a point. Uh, but maybe you'll have to soon. Yeeks. I need to get like an uplifting part of this message. At least we have each other, even in this dystopian hellscape. At least it's me and you. You can listen to my voice, and that's about it. I can't talk to you. Like back and forth. It's kind of one way, but maybe you like listening to me talk. All right, goodbye.